All right, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So, like a couple of times before, apparently this chapter was trending a few days ago on Twitter, which honestly isn't really indicative of quality or anything else because it's always been kind of mixed results whenever this chapter has been trending on Twitter before. Not a great look, but thankfully I wasn't spoiled on anything big. So I guess that's a good thing, even though I'm not like particularly picky about spoilers or things like that. Uh, so we'll dive into the chapter right now. I don't think there's anything major I want to point to or talk about before we get into it. So without further ado, let's dive into One Piece chapter 988. Sorry for the wait. We have the continuing adventures of Gang Badge's Oh My Family. Yes, that shouldn't be surprising because Oda usually typically does those with the final volume ones for these cover stories. So you see Chiffon and Lola both being surprised as baby Pez kind of cheering as his grandpa's just furiously doing the breaststroke to try to catch up with Beige's ship. And you have Gang Badges, Oh My Family, Volume 32. Despite the Navy bombardment, I'm still like your father. Oh, man. All right, like it feels like Oda's again doing that thing he does with the cover stories, where it feels like he's stalling for time because he wants to get to a certain event or something else in the actual series before he either dives into the next cover story or something else. And this gives me that same kind of impression that he's stalling for time while he's trying to get some plot point addressed in the main story itself. Uh, I really hope he's not going to drag out this pound stuff for like too much longer because I don't think anyone at this point would be super surprised by the idea of like, oh, Pound's going to reunite with his daughter, is going to accept him, or whatever's going to happen. But yeah, it is what it is. As usual, we have translation by Stephen Paul, lettering by Vanessa Satone, and we pick up where we left off with still kind of looking sick as hell in that dragon form, going, ah, yes, beneath the full moon, you minks turn into moonline berserkers known as Sulongs. Whoa, ro, 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 ro. And you see all the musketeers just lining up, tilting their hats. I'll admit that is badass. Yeah, Master Kaido! As Jack shows up with a bunch of underlings. And Jack goes, you samurai have really made a mess of things. And it was our mistake that you got this far. You will never get this close to Kaido again. I love the one that's like as lower body as a turtle because it reminds me of Catapult Turtle from Yu-Gi-Oh! You have one that has like a gorilla face on his abdomen, and you have this giant Oni Yeti looking guy standing giant in the back with like this like little loincloth. I like those designs of these characters. And you have Jack. Cat Viper goes, stay back, all of you gotta. And Dogstorm goes, Jack is the very man who brought ruin to 1,000 years of peace in our city, despite our insistence that there was no samurai there. And Raizo goes, I am the one they claimed was not there, Jack. They saved my life, and I intend to repay it many times over. And you have Jack going, it was you. And you have, no, you two, stand back for now. Save your strength for Kaido. And you have Roddy and BB, the Black Gorilla and the Bull, coming up. As you have Whale Force Guardians, and you have a Doom as you see them just exploding into their Sulong forms, their mane of hairs curling up all around them. And you have U2 Duke Dogstorm, the three Musketeers, Sicilian, the fox looking one, and the zebra come up, all doing the same thing. I'll talk about this at the end, but like this is just making me even more convinced of my idea or my theory that the minks are basically the minks are basically like protozoans basically, and that they're like the experimental outcomes of like the first experiments to create Zoan devil fruits, and the Sulong form is basically like similar to the awakened Zoan form because they look very eerily similar to the Awakened, Impelled Down, Jail Beast users. We'll talk about that at the end a little bit. Yeah, so you have Giovanni, the zebra Shishilian, and then Consulate, which is the fox weasel-looking one. And you see all the other ones also doing their same, transforming into Sulong, flames on there. I love the deer one that looks almost like what's this? He's the forest spirit from Princess Mononoke with like the horns on his back. That looks really cool. And you have Jack going, "Don't fall back. The Sulong lifespan is short." And you have, "Do your worst. We're all animals too." Ah. And you have, "Nah, gee. And you see the big Oni Yeti looking one is one of the numbers who's Nangi. Who was at number 9, I think. Or no, that's nah. I want to say either number 9 or 7, but I'd have to wait to confirm. And you have hurrah! And a kadoom as you see an explosion as the two forces rush each other. And you see Big Mom just staring up at the hole in the ceiling as you hear an "Aroo!" Yeah, they started fighting up there. Then you have, I think, Queen going to Jack go up with them. And King's like, "Unlike you, he was considerate enough to leave." And he's like, "What?" And King kind of glances off to the side as you see Shinobu just on the little on the little cross Momo's on. And she's trying to take the chains off. And she's like, "They're not coming off." And King just stares silently at her as he's watching this go on. And Shinobu's like, "Oh no!" And you have a crack as they think he grabs Shinobu. He's like, "Ah, Shinobu!" He's like, "Ah." And King's just like grabbing and he slams her into one of the side walls. He's like, "That was clumsy work." And you have a boom. And again, because she goes smashing into the wall and falls off. And Mom was like, "Shinobu!" And Luffy's like, "It didn't work. Is she okay?" And now he's like, "No, Shinobu!" And you see a clank clank as the chains just collapse and like cut into pieces with a ka-chang. And both King and Queen's like, "What was that?" And King's just looking up in confusion. He's like, "What? He's flying." As you see Momo just swimming through the air. He's like, "Ah, it's high. I'm scared." And you have King just being like, "Oh, I know what's going on." And you have one of the samurai asking, "What's happening?" And Hyogoro's like, "Lord Momonosuke." And you see Shinobu doing her little parachute thing and she's floating down. It's like, "Lord Momonosuke." Ugh, ouch, off. And you see King leaping up and kicking something in midair and sending Momo flying. Oh, so you see that Shitji's actually using his superpowers for good as King's trying to come up flying up in the air and trying to kick him, and Sanji blocks the kick midair with his foot. And you have Sangoro? It's like, "Sanji, I thought you were chasing after women." Ugh. And King grabs him by the throat and goes, "Give back the boy. He must be eliminated." And you have a humph. Sanji kicks Momo over to Shinobu. And he goes, "Take Momo, Shinobu." And he's like, "My lord." And he's like, Sango is like, "Hey, Momo." It's like, "Way to drop your name like a man." And he tries to give him a thumbs up as he's trying to act all cool. Honestly, Sanji's the last person I'd want a thumbs up from. And you have Shinobu flying off. He's like, "Sangoro." It's like, "Hold on tight, Lord Momonosuke." And you see King transforming into his pterodon form as he just slams his beak into Sanji and starts flying forward. And Sanji's like, "Oh, this isn't good. Watch out." It's like, "Stop it, you bird freak. A big gaping hole in the stomach could kill someone. Please kill him. Please kill him and knock him off the crew. If any straw hat has to die, let it be this asshole." Oh, God. And King goes, "Not just a hole. I'll split you in two. Let's see if you can vanish and escape that." It's like, "The invisibility is just a visual thing, so let go." And you have an as he goes flying and smashing into a wall. And Luffy's like, "Sanji, oh, that looked bad." He's like, "Yamao, you handle Momo. Help Shinobu protect him." And Yamato's like, "Huh?" It's like, "Can I?" And Luffy's like, "What do you mean, can I?" Oh, God, I really don't know what the hell Oda's doing with this dumb Yamato thinks he's Oden shtick. Like, it's just getting really irritating at this point. Yamato's like, "Oh, right. It's only natural. He's my son after all." And he's like, "Just go." And you see Big Mom running up with Napoleon going, "Listen up, everybody. We're going to kill every last invading samurai so we can start this party over again." And they're all like, "Yeah." And Big Mom's like, "The wedding, the tea party, the feast. You've destroyed everything I looked forward to. And she does her Ikoku sovereignty as she just slashes this giant gaping hole through the banquet hall. And you see Luffy just dodging out of the way as you see this boom on the outside of Onigashima. I have mixed feelings on Big Mom, but I do love that attack. And you have the samurai just freaking out, like, it's like, who is that monstrous crone? It's like, from the stories I hear, she's a pirate captain every bit as fearsome as Kaido. It's like, what? Then they have two Kaidos? And Luffy's like, damn it, I want to go up there too. But if she follows me, that just means more enemies for them to fight. Big Mom's like, ha, 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 ha. So you've chosen to run. Come, Zeus. And she holds her hands up, kind of just beckons. And you see Zeus, as Zeus is trying to run away with Nami. He's like, you can't, Nami, she'll kill you. As you see Nami grabbing like the little baby Zeus and just running away. The way Oda's designed it, it looks really, really blackfacey the way he's drawn Zeus, and I'm not sure I really care for the way he's kind of done that. Like, I know it's not blackface, like it's not an actual character, but just the way it's drawn looks very blackfacey caricaturation. I don't think it's a great artistic choice. You see Nami as she's trying to run away, he's like, busted! And she brings up Zeus in front of her, like, listen, Buster, you've got a choice to make, me or Big Mom. And poor Zeus is just crying, but I can't disobey Mama. And you see Big Mom just chasing after her, just ripping him out from Nami with, you little cat burglar. He's like, Nami's like, oh. And you see Zeus just crying as he's starting to expand again. And Big Mom goes, if you go easy on her, I'll make you disappear, Zeus. And he's crying angry. He's like, I'm sorry, Nami, die. And she's like, what? And you see on the little Frankie bicycle as you have activate soul sensor. It's like the clock, I got rid of it. For I am the wind. And you see Brooke just strumming along. Oh, the return of the Soul King. And you have Nami just crying like, I hate your guts. We'll never be friends again. Oh, this is gold. Oh, I love this. God, tears in my eyes. You see Frankie just riding the bike onto Big Mom's face, revving the engine, as Book's just sitting on the little horn at the front, just casually being like, consider yourself sliced. As he sliced through Zeus again, as Big Mom just takes a bike wheel to the face, and you have Frankie just singing, I'm Frankie, the Freedom Rider, yeah! And you have Big Mom with like a poof, as her head just gets knocked back. And you have all the goons be like, what? Who are they? It's like, Big Mom. He's like, oops, did I just run over something? As he comes to a stop with a scream. He's like, oh, well. Oh my god, it has been so long since we got original Frankie, and I love this. See Big Mom just lying flat, skid marks on her face, is now he's like, big bro. And you have Frankie just putting up his glasses like, does someone have a runny nose? Oh boy, and there's a break next week, so next chapter hits September 6th. Oh boy, honestly, that was an enjoyable chapter, I will admit. There's not really too much to talk about this time. So like usual, I'll kind of just break it down from beginning to the end with the general thoughts. Again, I do like the whole scene with how Kaido set up, like the whole background imagery, everything with him under the full moon. the wind kind of blowing his mane. I love that all thematically. It looks super, super badass, especially with the minks all just kind of lining up all of the straw hats on, Enies Lobby. Their heads kind of tilted down with the hats and everything. Looks super cool. Like kind of some of Kaido's goons designs. Jack showing up again. I feel like this is supposed to be one of those like emotional and cathartic moments where like, oh, the Minks are finally gonna get, the revenge. It's supposed to be like all hyped up about it. But like Jack wasn't really a particularly compelling villain the first time around, and ever since then he's kind of lost what little edge he did have as kind of a notable physical threat. Like I suppose that there hasn't really been anything that made that go away except for the lack of screen time and just kind of general lack of consequence or like danger in Wano itself. But yeah, like apart from that, like there's no real tension or like emotional moment with this scene where Dogstorm and Cap Viper are like, oh yeah, we're gonna get our revenge. Same with Raizo being like, oh guys, like yeah, I'm gonna repay you Minx for what you did to me. It's like if we just gotten a little bit more background with Raizo, a little bit more development between the relationship with him and the Minx, or at least like even the Akazai 9 and the Minx, with the backstory and everything they had, that might have done a little bit more to kind of give this moment a little bit more weight. But as it is right now, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we have the badass thing, like the Minx basically going werewolf. But apart from that, there's no real uh, emotional impact to it. We have Jay Jeweler going, dude, you gotta share your screen. I'd love to see some images with your reaction. Um, that's something I'll potentially consider doing for the next reaction or video, but I think a couple of other YouTubers have commented in the past that there's issues with copyright when they tend to kind of share their screen or their images of like what's happening with the panels, and like they get copyright infringement strikes on their videos. So what I might do as like a workaround for that, something I kind of do on my other read through videos, is I might bring my tablet in here and pull up the chapter on my tablet, and I might just show it to the screen to be like, oh hey, this is the moment I'm talking about, just to point out like specific moments and panels and things like that. So that might be a workaround where I don't actually like put the image onto the screen in the video. I'll kind of just show it on my tablet, which might be a workaround. So maybe I'll try that for next week. I'll pull up my tablet, put the chapter on there, and then when I'm talking about whatever scenes or moments or things I like, I'll just put it up on the screen as a share thing. But yeah, we'll see if I can make that work. But yeah, minor nitpick with the Minx all going Sulong this way is that all of the male Minx thus far, like when they transform into Sulong, like they're looking monstrous and like hefty with like these giant manes, right? And, like these fearsome expressions and everything. And this is the kind of thing where I don't like Oda's bias again showing where it's like all the male Minx will look super monstrous, super buff and like muscly and all that. Granted, we haven't seen like their full forms yet, so maybe this is a little bit premature. But with Carrot, it's like, all right, she transformed into the thing, and it's like, oh no, Carrot's a girl, so she has to be, all ephemeral, like wayfish and like skinny and sexy, and look like all alluring in her Sulong form. Like honestly, I did not really care for her design, particularly in Sulong, because of that. Where he's like, oh, when Kara transforms Sulong, she just becomes a sexy adult woman with a huge ass tail. But she has to remain a woman, or else how else would you know that she's not a girl? And Oda doesn't do that for the men, where it's like, oh, there's no real worry for him to be like, oh, are they still gonna look like men when they transform? So I wish he didn't have that kind of bias showing up again. But again, minor complaint with that. Um, like it looks like Oda's gonna like slowly start just revealing each of the numbers in each of these conflicts. Hope we do, because this kind of I think plays into the idea I have of like, are we actually gonna see Are we actually going to see the raid succeed, or is this just going to be round one and they're going to have to regroup and come back for round two? Because if it's the latter, I feel like Oda then might off screen the numbers fights for now and either show them being defeated or them defeating the Minx and everyone else, because he doesn't want to show off their full transformation powers, whatnot yet. So I guess that's going to be something we're going to have to wait and see. But like I mentioned during the actual like reaction, like I'm just getting like we'll have to wait to see what the Minx like full transform Sulong is. Hopefully the next chapter, like Oda's gonna show us what it looks like after they've like transformed fully and not just show kind of like silhouettes of it. But I'm super convinced that they are basically gonna look like Awakened Zone. Like they're gonna look like the Jailer Beast from Impel Down is my guess, like or at least like Jailer Beast light or at least tangentially are related. So I want to see if that turns out to be true and that'll kind of semi confirm my theory. But I'm excited to see just for that. I love that King is kind of also because I know a lot of people are probably not going to be. So Jay Jeweler said, "Oh, on the tablet that might be crazy enough to work." That's what I'm hoping for. We'll have to see if that happens. Jay Jeweler goes, "Thank you for addressing Oda's bias. Appreciate your eye for the details." Yeah, I'm like typically I'm not like super art detail. Like I just don't really have an eye for pointing out like the specifics of why certain like art styles and things work aesthetically. But there are like some things I will notice, like when the panel compositions are too kind of jumbled or messy. Those are kind of things I think I can point out because I just have enough of an understanding. But I know a lot of my other friends are kind of better pointing out the details of why certain art panels and compositions work better. But yeah, appreciate that shout out. So back to what I was saying. I know a lot of people are probably mad about this because they think that this chapter kind of confirms the idea that Sanji is going to be fighting King. Because I know that was an idea that was been thrown around a lot as theories, as people saying like, "Oh, Zoro's going to be the one to take on Orochi, and then Sanji will have to be taking out King." You know, some people are speculating, "Oh, Sanji's going to take on Queen, and Zoro will be the one to take on King because he's a swordsman." I've always been in the camp of like, yeah, it would make sense for Sanji to take on King purely because of the epithet of King the Wildfire, and we know Sanji's Germa raid suit, if it's similar to Judge and his siblings, is probably fireproof. And given Sanji's whole fire stick, like thematically, that could work out as a fight. I don't think this is going to be the final matchup yet. I think this is just going to be a short altercation before we get the actual matchups. Because I think it was back in Fishman Island, Oda was doing like Oda actually confirmed like, oh no, it's gonna be Usopp versus Daruma, Chopper versus Hammer Dude. I can't remember what his name was. So I think we're gonna get confirmation of which Straw Hats are gonna face off against who. So for right now, I take any potential matchups with a grain of salt until we actually get confirmation on who's taking on who. Ah, man, like I wish Oda hadn't ruined all the goodwill Sanji had from like pre-time skip and everything else with all his incel-y, sexist, misogynistic, like all his phobic shit things, behaviors that he's been doing, like post Punk Hazard to like with Whole Cake out, like everything. I wish he hadn't ruined all of that because this is a genuinely good moment, like a good callback to Sanji the super spy, who kind of takes care of details in the background, like he did with Mr. Prince in Alabasta, like he did on Water 7, where he went spy mode, and he's like, "Oh, I put down the lever to open the doors, so we can all escape." Like, I wish Oda hadn't ruined so much of the goodwill Sanji had up to this point, to the point where even if he has a good moment like this, I still cannot appreciate it because of how much I hate what he's done with the character and like the direction he's taken him. So like That's why when it's just like, oh, Sanji's just like, oh, way to drop your name like a man. It's like, yeah, that's a good moment if it came from literally anyone but Sanji. I'd be like rooting and cheering, but when he does that, it just makes me feel like queasy and be like, I guess I'll take the compliment kind of feeling. So, apart from that, like, I don't know. I just mixed feelings on him, but I think everybody knows that by now. And then I guess we have to kind of talk about the big mom in the room, which I love the comedy with Nami trying to like get Zeus to stay on her side, and Zeus literally not being able to resist Big Mom because she's literally an aspect of her soul. Like, so how's he gonna run away? And I think this is the thing I really like, and I'm super looking forward to more than anything else, is seeing the different Straw Hat kind of team up combinations that Oda likes to do. Because I don't think we've ever seen a Brooke Frankie combination up till now in a fight. Like we always get the usual like Nami or Usopp, or Nami or Chopper or Usopp, Zoro or Sanji team up. So we always kind of get where those groups tend to work together. And I don't think we've ever seen that with Brooke or Frankie. And just this boss ass entrance with both of them just singing, Brooke just kind of strumming as he's just casually sitting on the Frankie bike, and Frankie just be like riding it into Big Mom's face and just doing like a wheelie on her face. This was like by far one of the best moments in Wano. And I can't even believe I'm saying that, but one of the best moments in Wano thus far. It really feels like old school One Piece with like the comedy beats, the character beats, everything else like that. This is the kind of feeling I've really been missing this series for a long time now. And I hope we get more of these in the coming chapters. And I hope we get more team ups like this because this is what the series does best. And like Oda really needs to kind of remember and focus in back on that. So I really, really hope we get more of those. And then the last little comment that just kind of struck me as I was like going through this and thinking about thoughts and things before I wrap up here. There's debate, and I think a lot of people are convinced that Big Mom is going to be going down in Wano just because Luffy has said, oh yeah, I'm here to kick your ass, I'm here to kick Kaido's ass, I'm here to kick Orochi's ass, and all that. I do not for a second buy that Big Mom is going down in Wano. There is a 99.99999% chance that she is not going to go down and she is going to get away. This is more. This is partly because of a long-term theory idea I've held that Big Mom is eventually going to get a redemption arc, and she's going to be turned into an ally. And the other part that struck me right now, and I'm just kind of like a little bit dreading the idea of this happening, is I hope that Frankie having smashed into her face, in combination with Zeus also having been cut by Brooke, kind of like, because it's part of her soul. I hope this doesn't mean that next chapter when Big Mom gets back up, she's going to transform back into Olin, and then she's going to turn around and instead start smashing her way through Kaido's goons instead of facing off against Luffy. And I can't shake the feeling that that's what's going to happen because I don't think Oda just introduced it as a plot point early on in Wano just to be like, oh, I just need her out of the way for now, so I'm going to give her this Olin personality until it's not convenient for me anymore to like push the plot forward enough, and I can get rid of it. I feel like it's something he's going to bring back at some point, and I'm not going to get into it here. I'll probably get into it later, once into like future videos once we get better confirmation. But I feel like that's also going to tie into aspects of ideas I have about why Big Mom is going to be redeemed, how that ties into her past, and like various things about split personality. So I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping next chapter is Big Mom just getting back up, getting furious, and being like, "How dare you smash a motorcycle into my face?" And the conflict kind of carrying on. But I can't. I'm kind of betting on it. There's a chance being that she goes back in Olin mode. On the one hand, the one way you could play it, which would make me a little bit less apprehensive and annoyed about that happening as a plot point, is it would again go into the idea of the Straw Hats getting overconfident in the raid succeeding and kind of letting their guard down. Because it'd be kind of the thing of like, oh, they thought they had to face off against two powerful emperors, but no, but Big Mom got transformed back into Olin. They don't have to worry about her. She's on their side now, which I think would make the eventual failure of a raid or the possibility of the raid eventually failing more emotionally, what's the word I'm looking for? More emotionally fraught, kind of like the idea of like, oh, everything was seemingly going their way. Even Big Bomb was no longer a threat to them, but even despite all that, they still lost. In that way, I could kind of see it being a little bit better, but I don't know. Right now, it feels like we're building up to something like I mentioned in the cover page. It seems like Oda's building up to some big kind of plot point. I know a lot of people are banking on something big happening on chapter 1000. Again, that's the thing where I'm just like, yeah, I could potentially see something like that because Oda does like his big numbers, and 1000 is kind of like a huge milestone for this series. Like 1000 chapters isn't something really to scoff at. So I could see Oda kind of deciding to do something special or important. Maybe it's the end of Act 3 is going to happen on chapter 1000 or something else. We'll have to wait and see. I just want more of this feeling of like the ending where we're getting actual genuine conflict again, clever stuff happening, things like that. Hopefully Oda delivers. There'll be a break next week, so I'm going to try to get, I think, potentially the second part of my One Piece podcast video out. So once we get closer to that day, I'll kind of decide on what I'm going to put in there to kind of fill that gap. But yeah, I think that was it. One of the shorter recent reaction reviews I've done. Thank you everyone that dropped in. As always, it's a lot of fun to kind of go through this live every week. Like I mentioned, this stream next week, I'll try to bring in the tablet. Maybe do some test videos this week just to see how that'll work. But I'll try to bring my tablet and then use that to kind of go through showing the pages as I'm going through them. Like I mentioned, there's a couple of other videos this weekend. I'll try to get a channel update this week with some ideas or some dates and things for read-throughs and on what days and things those are going to happen and things like that. But till next time, this is Ash. Talk to you all later.